troubled teenager. She was rebellious and violent. When Sarah was arrested, her parents thought it was a blessing because she was going to a new kind of juvenile detention facility, a private prison offering counseling that could turn her life around. Many desperate parents cling to the hope of rehabilitation. For Sarah and others, that hope was offered by the Wackenhut Corporation. Wackenhut is the leader of a trend in America, putting prisons in the hands of private companies. Wackenhut says it can run the prisons for less money than a state can and provide better rehabilitation. But for Wackenhut, running prisons for profit sometimes has turned out much more difficult and dangerous than promised. There were great hopes for Sarah and the other kids that were sent away, but no one knew they were locked inside a nightmare.
Sarah was this great kid for about 14 years. And at 14, she became rebellious.
There was nothing in Sarah Lowe's young life that hinted at the storm that was coming. She grew up in Nebraska amid a loving family. But after the Lowe's moved to Texas, her mother Gail says Sarah had a hard time adjusting.
It became to the point where the more discipline we put on her, the more she would rebel, to where she became violent towards myself.
One day, in a heated argument over discipline, Sarah lost control and attacked her mother.
She had stabbed me, and... Stop, please.
I'm sorry. Heartbroken and desperate, the Lowe's knew Sarah needed professional help. A judge sentenced Sarah to 6 months detention, and the family was actually relieved because a probation officer said Sarah would get intensive counseling at a new private prison, Wackenhut's Koch County Juvenile Justice Center.
It sounded like this was what we needed. She told me all the staff was very qualified. They would all have bachelor's degrees in either juvenile justice or psychology, child psychology. So it just sounded wonderful.
And expensive. Texas was paying Wackenhut top dollar, $118 per girl per day, because of the high level of counseling and education. But when the doors closed behind Sarah, she didn't find the promised counseling. In fact, some of the counseling sessions were actually being run by the guards. And it turns out there wasn't much concern for the girls' education either. Sarah was promoted through 3 grades of high school in just 6 months. But that wasn't the worst of it. It turns out that Wackenhut's all-girl facility was being run mostly by men. And by the time Sarah left there, she had a terrible secret. She eventually told her sister Jenny that one of the guards raped her most every night.
He would take her in the next cell and molest her every night. And she was feared for, my life because he would tell her, I'm going to kill your sister and your mom if you tell anybody.
You always want to believe in your child, and Sarah had given us so many doubts, You
wanted to know the truth.
I wanted to know what happened.
So the Lowe's filed suit against Wackenhut, alleging widespread, systematic sexual assault of the girls in the Texas Detention Center. The suit would launch an investigation, pitting the story of a deeply troubled 15-year-old girl against a $2 billion company. Texas isn't the only place where Wackenhut has found trouble with prisons for boys and girls. In Louisiana, the company was hired to help clean up the troubled system there. In 1998, while Sarah Lowe's charges were being investigated, Wackenhut opened the Gina Juvenile Justice Center for boys. And just like the Lowe family, Penny Goodry believed that Gina could help her 17-year-old son Dale. He had a problem with marijuana.
The judge knew that Dale's problems revolved around his drug use, so she had ordered him to be sent to this facility because they were supposed to have a really good drug rehab program.
You were encouraged by that.
Right.
If he had to go to jail...
I was hoping it would be Gina.
Dale went to Gina for 6 months in 1999. As an inmate, he worked as a clerk in the warden's office. He says Gina was out of control, that in a facility filled with minors, some Wackenhut employees were having sex with the boys and pushing drugs in the cell blocks.
One was a nurse, one was a guard. They were sisters. And they was both had sexual act with the inmates.
You saw guards
Personally.
with your own eyes
My own eyes.
smoking marijuana in the
With
dorm?
the inmates.
With the inmates?
Yes, sir.
Wait a minute. The guards are smoking marijuana with the inmates. They're having sex with the inmates.
The guards are just like inmates. It's just they got control over us.
But Gina was out of control from the start. In 1 year, Wackenhut went through 5 wardens and turned over the entire staff 3 times. There were reports of extreme brutality that was confirmed in a blistering investigation by the U.S. Department of Justice. The Justice report says youths were subjected to cruel and humiliating punishments, and guards routinely used excessive force. In short, the report says the Gina Center is a dangerous place to be.
I was shocked, and I was absolutely astounded at the allegations that were documented there.
Juvenile court judge Mark Doherty was sentencing kids who ended up at Gina when the Justice Department report hit his desk. Shocked?
Allegations of physical abuse in which young people are kicked or beaten or slammed against a wall, slammed against the floor.
How could it happen? Turns out Louisiana and Texas had much the same problem. Investigators found that most guards had no experience, and frequently, Wackenhut wasn't even checking their backgrounds. In fact, some of the guards hired for Gina had criminal records of their own. The Department of Justice report identified one guard, a sergeant, who had an assault conviction on his record. That man was eventually fired after seriously injuring one of the youths by repeatedly slamming his face into a concrete floor. The Justice Department report says fear inside Gina was so great that inmates were mutilating themselves just to get to the relative safety of the infirmary.
They have these razor wires that surrounds the facility. They bent the little razors off and was slicing their wrists.
2 offenders were up on the roof,
2-3
screaming
stories high.
and cutting their wrists with razor wire.
Yes, sir.
All of this was too much for Judge Doherty, and he did something extraordinary. He began releasing Gina inmates on parole, 7 so far. Doherty decided Wackenhut was putting their lives at risk.
No matter what reason landed these young people at this facility, they are human beings. And the way this facility operates is that young people are treated as if they walked on all fours.
By the time we sat down with Wackenhut, a riot in their New Mexico prison had killed 2 people, and the company was fired from an adult women's prison in Texas where 12 guards were indicted for having sex with inmates. George Zoli is Chief Executive Officer of Wackenhut Corrections Corporation, overseeing all of the prison operations.
Any correctional organization is subject to numerous allegations of that nature. That's part of the business. It is a tough business. The people in prison are not Sunday school children.
In a press release, your company described Gina as safe, sound, and secure.
And meeting all federal constitutional standards. We stand by that statement, Scott. Yes, we do.
But the Justice Department investigation says Gina's medical records confirmed an unacceptably high rate of traumatic injuries. The infirmary logs for the Gina prison showed 100 serious traumatic injuries in less than 2 months. That's 2 a day.
2 a day?
100
Yes.
serious traumatic injuries in less than 2 months.
And how do you compare that to national statistics, Scott?
How do you compare it?
It sounds low to me.
2 a day among
2 a day,
juveniles?
hundreds of juveniles who are physically in contact with one another, recreating.
Are you saying recreation is responsible for these 100 serious traumatic injuries?
Recreation or altercations between the juveniles.
Richard Stalder is the head of Louisiana's Department of Corrections. He oversees Wackenhut's contract with the state. He insists that the Justice Department investigation is overblown. When he talked with us, Stalder said that what Wackenhut needs is more time. Why another 90 days?
Another 90 days.
It's been 13, 14 months. They've had 5 wardens. They've turned over the staff 3 times, 300% turnover. And you're going to give them another 90 days?
Yes, we are. And the reason is that, as I indicated earlier, the truth lies between these two extremes. And the truth today does not call for a pullout from that facility or a takeover of that facility. When the truth calls for that, this department will do that.
But just 12 hours after this interview, Stalder reversed himself. He seized control of Gina the very next morning. We have learned that Stalder took the action because a state investigator reported that a Wackenhut guard was caught erasing a videotape that allegedly showed abuse of an inmate. Are you aware of any allegations that evidence has been destroyed at Gina? In particular, the shredding of complaints against guards and the erasure of videotapes?
No, I'm not aware of such evidence, no.
I'm the one that shreds the complaints.
Dale Ortego told us that he was assigned to shred complaints while he worked as a trustee in the Gina office. They had you shred the complaints that inmates had made against the guards.
Yeah, like once a month I'd shred them.
You put them in a paper shredder.
Yes, sir.
And out they went.
Yes, sir.
Wackenhut's Gina operation is now being sued by the inmates and the Department of Justice. Back in Texas, Sarah Lowe's lawsuit was joined by 11 more girls from the Wackenhut prison there. 2 Wackenhut employees pled guilty to criminal charges of sexual assault. The company decided to settle Sarah's civil suit as long as her parents would agree to never discuss what happened inside the prison. There came a time when the Wackenhut people decided to settle with you.
Correct.
You must have felt vindicated. You must have felt that your daughter had told you the truth and that in your mind, you'd proved it.
Yes, she had tears in her eyes when we were sitting at the table. And I thought, you know, she's relieved it's over. She's happy that it's over.
What happened then?
Well, the day we settled, Sarah committed suicide. She shot herself twice. She wanted to die so bad. She shot herself under her chin and in her temple.
Sarah had been deeply troubled even before she entered Wackenhut's care. But her sister Jenny says Sarah was upset about the settlement because the company and its founder, George Wackenhut, refused to admit any responsibility.
She didn't want any money. I mean, she wasn't trying to get money out of it. She just wanted an apology and for Mr. Wackenhut to live one day in the life of all the girls and boys in the facility, just to see what they go through every day and just to have an apology for ruining her life.
Does the name Sarah Lowe mean anything to you?
It's a female inmate in the state of Texas.
She was a female inmate in the state of Texas. Yes. Your company not long ago settled a suit involving allegations that she was repeatedly raped in your facility in Texas. Before she killed herself, she told her sister that she just wished that Mr. Wackenhut could spend one night in one of his facilities and apologize to her for what happened to her.
That's hard to believe, Scott. You know, that's your statement, and that's a sad story regarding Sarah Lowe. But, you know, we have signed a confidentiality agreement regarding that lawsuit, and I'm really not allowed to speak to it any further.
It's her sister's statement, for the record. Does Wackenhut Corporation owe her or any other inmate an apology?
Not that I'm aware of, Scott. I don't know what you mean by that.
Wackenhut still runs the Texas Detention Center, but it has been converted to an all-boys facility. In the face of the lawsuits in Louisiana, Wackenhut has just announced that it will abandon the Gina prison and turn the inmates over to the state.
It's a tragedy. I'll tell you. I don't understand you boys. I don't think you know what it means to have rules. You gotta have rules and you gotta have discipline. I don't know what it was like in your homes and your home lives, but in my house with my father, there were rules. And if you didn't follow the rules, there was hell of a pay. You had rules, and you had discipline. Sometimes it wasn't nice, but boy, we learned. We sure did learn. Yeah, right around there to the right. There you go. Come on now. I mean, it's a simple thing, really. You got rules, and you got discipline. That's the beginning of the story, and that's the end of the story. Do we understand each other?
Turn and face the wall.
Face the wall.
Me too.
Now, we got interrupted earlier in the lunchroom, but there's no one to interrupt us here now.
What do you want?
A blowjob. Down on your knees.
Face the wall.
Sparking and busting mad light inside the dark. Call me dough snatcher, just a brother for the rapture. I hang line, holding on strong, hard to capture. Extravagant, Elizabeth the track and it's militant. Then I react like a convict and start killing shit. It's manifested. The guards work like appliances. Dealing in my cipher, I revolve around scientists. The night chamber, to get trapped inside my hallway. You try to flee, but you got smoke right by the doorway. No question, I send your ass back right to the essence. Your whole frame is smothered in dirt. Now how you resting? Well, I be trapped by sounds, locked behind loops. Throwing niggas off airplanes with cash rules. Everything around me black, as you can see. Swallow this murder one verse like God degree. Then analyze my soundtrack with satisfaction. You adapt like a flashback chain reaction.
Lace them niggas, son. AK's black, bust back like 70 max. I'm all that. Street niggas knowing my steez black. Raw G, you know he coincide with me, see? Marvelous, menace for society. But anyway, let's toast. Champagne thoughts with ghosts. I max the most. Shotguns through the notes. Fuck rap, hip hop for me, York South. Low wears and Tommy help fly shit with a knock. The way the unpredictable live shit. Drive by shit, do or die shit. I take your lying shit. And then you know I'm running through the P now. Foul, walk through chow was wild. The old lady snitch, but fuck it. You know it, one love kid. No, I'm not doing a bit. Too much to get for what? The 6 niggas got stuck in the nigga chain was truck. Yo, fuck that. Criminology rap. Sneakers stay jet black. Floating in the flies act. Nigga, bring it.
Rebel face. Rebel face. Rebel face too.
Much love go to New York City.